Hello friends, welcome to Lead by Learning by Palak Puri. In previous session, we have talked about architecture of JVM, in which we have seen mainly three components, which were class loader, bytecode verifier, and execution engine. In this session, we'll talk about every component in detail. So in this session, we are going to discuss the fully fledged architecture of JVM. But before moving to the architecture of JVM, we should know this few definitions or few terms. First one is rt.jar file. RT means runtime. rt.jar stands for runtime and contains all of the compiled class files like we have java.lang package classes, java.net package classes, java.util package classes, etc. So all the compiled classes are stored in rt.jar file. We have to include rt.jar in our class path, otherwise will not be have access to these classes, right? So in this screenshot you can see this is the class path, windows and program files in Java, JRE8 and library, and in this library we have this rt executable jar file. So this file has to be included in the class path, otherwise will not have access to the this compiled classes, right? Next we have jar file. What is this jar file? Jar stands for Java archive. It is a zip file format kind of a file, and it contains the aggregation of many files into one. It is like a zip file, right? So you can see hello.jar. It's a kind of zip file format, and it is having many files that contain many files into just one file. So next we'll start with the architecture of JVM. As we know, and we have already discussed it in the previous session, that we have a source file which is called as .java file. That source file is embedded into the compiler, which we have a Java C compiler, and compiler compiles the source file and converts a source file into a class file. This class file basically contains a bytecode. So say if I have a test.java file and I will embed that test.java file into compiler, which is the Java C compiler. This compiler will compile the test.java file and produces the .test.class file, which contains the bytecode. And the next step is to bytecode has to be entered into the JVM. So for that we have first part, class loader system. First component of the JVM is class loader system, in which we have further three components, or class loader subsystem is categorized into three components. Class loader subsystem of JVM is used to load class files. Whenever we run the Java program, it is loaded first by the class loader. There are three built-in class loaders in Java, which is Bootstrap class loader, extension class loader, and application class loader, right? So what is Bootstrap, extension, and application class loader? Bootstrap class loader is the first class loader, which is the super class of extension class loader. It loads the rt.jar file, which we have discussed earlier, which contains all class files of Java, like java.lang package classes, java.net package classes, java.util package classes, etc. So it basically loads all the compiled class files. It's done by the Bootstrap class loader. Next we have extension class loader. This is the child class loader of Bootstrap class loader and parent class loader of system class loader. So this Bootstrap is the parent class loader of this extension class loader. It loads the jar files located inside JRE library. So basically this Bootstrap class loader loads the compiled class files, and this extension class loader loads the jar files into the this JVM. Next we have application class loader. This is the child class loader of extension class loader. So it is the child class of this extension class loader. It loads the class files from class path. So the files that has to be loaded from the class path comes under the application class loader. By default, class path is set to the current directory. So the class path, first of all, it is set to the current directory. So it is the different types of class loaders. Next we have linking. The second phase is linking process. In linking, again, linking is categorized into three components, or it has three phases. First one is verify, second is prepare, and third one is resolve. So verify, it verifies the bytecode if it is valid or not. If it is valid for the JVM, it comes into the verify phase. Next we have prepare phase. For static variables, memory will be allocated and defined with the default values in the prepare phase. So if we have static variables, so for that static variables, memory will be defined with the default values, right? Next we have resolve phase. All symbolic references are replaced with original references from method area. So we have symbolic references that are already defined. This resolve will replace the symbolic references with the original references from the method area. Next we have initialization. It initializes class variables with routines specified by the program. So basically initialization is used to initialize all the class variables. It also initializes the super classes if it is not already initialized. So all the super classes, class variables, or all the other things that needs to be initialized before the execution of a program, that comes under the initialization phase. So this is the class loader system in which we have three these categories. First one is loading, linking, and initialization. In loading, we have three predefined class loaders, that is bootstrap class loader, extension class loader, and application class loader. And if I ask which one is the best one, so we'll say bootstrap class loader is the important and the best one among the three. Next we have linking phase, in which we have three phases further: verify, prepare, and resolve. And the last one is the initialization phase. Once the initialization phase is done, so we can say this class loader and all the classes are loaded into the JVM, right? Now, to load the classes, some memory must be required, or while executing also there is a requirement of some memory. For that we have various memory areas which are present inside the JVM, and there are total of 5 memory areas which are present inside the JVM, and those are method area, heap area, stack area, program counter registers, and native method stack. So what is method area? In this method area, class data will be there, including static variables, data variables. So all the data related to the class will be stored in the method area. Next we have heap area. In this, object and corresponding instance variables will be stored in the heap area. So if we are defining any object or instance variables, that will be stored in the heap area. Next we have stack area. Java stack stores frames. So stack area will be creating frames. These frames holds local variables and partial results, and plays a very important part in method invocation and return. So method invocation means when we are going to invoke a method, or when we are performing or when we are expecting a return from a method, at that time a stack area is used. Next, a new frame is created each time a method is invoked. Whenever a method is invoked, each time a new frame is created. A frame is destroyed when its method invocation completes. So stack area is responsible for method invocation, and for each time method invocation is done, a new frame is created, and the frame is destroyed when its method invocation completes. Next we have PC registers. PC register means program counter register. It basically contains the address of the JVM instruction. currently being executed. So the current instruction that has been executed, that the address of that instruction is stored in program counter register. Next, we have native method stack. This stack contains all the native methods used in the application. So all the native methods that are going to use in the application are stored in the native method stack. So if I talk about these five memory areas, if I say the important ones are method area, heap area, and stack area. These PC registers and native stack method stack is kind of a dummy memory area. So basically we use these of method area, heap area, and stack area. But if I say which one is the most important, then I say heap area is the most important, because as we know, Java deals with the objects. So heap area contains the objects and the references. So we can say heap area is important among all the memory areas, right? Next we have the third component of JVM, which is execution engine. So then execution is basically responsible to execute the program. So the two important parts are there in the execution engine. First one is interpreter and the second one is JIT, which is just-in-time compilation. So interpreter reads, interpret and execute Java program line by line. As we know, interprets the code line by line. So there is a problem with the interpreter. If any method is required repeatedly, then we need to interpret that method again and again. So every time we have to write that method and interpret that same method again and again. So instead of interpreting every time, we can just compile it once into a machine code. So next time onwards, we can use this machine code in our program. So who is responsible to do this activity? The answer is JIT compiler. So the problem that occurred in the interpreter has overcome in the JIT compiler, because interpreter interprets a code line by line, and if I want to use a method again and again, then I need to interpret that method again and again. So there should be a mechanism which says that just compile once and execute the machine code or execute the code. So for that purpose, we have JIT compiler. JIT compiler is categorized into three components further. First one is intermediate code generator, second is code optimizer, and the third one is target code generator. So intermediate code generator produces intermediate code, which is the bytecode. Now, code optimizer is responsible to optimize the code. And next we have target code. It is responsible to generate machine code or native code. So basically in JVM, there is another component which is just-in-time compiler. It basically responsible for producing a machine code. It follows the following steps. First of all, this intermediate code generator produces the intermediate code, which is the bytecode. Then code optimizer optimizes the code. And lastly, target code generator, it produces the machine code, which is then read by the CPU. So there are several components are there in execution engine, like garbage collector, security management, etc. And we can say execution execution engine is the central part of the JVM, just like our CPU or our processor, while execution engine requires nature information, right? Now, in execution engine, native method libraries are also there. This is native method libraries. During execution engine may require native method library information, which are stored in native method libraries. So who is responsible to provide the information of native method library? For that, we have JNI, which is Java Native Interfaces. Java Native Interfaces are there who are responsible to provide native method library information to the execution engine. So this was the execution engine. And now if I look at the diagram, we have the source file, then it is embedded into the compiler and it produces the class file. Then this class file is embed into the JVM, and this is the these are the components of JVM. First of all, we have class loader, then we have a bytecode verifier, then we have the execution engine. In class loader, we have three types of primitive class loaders, which are bootstrap, extension, and application. Application class loader is also known as system class loader. Then in linking process, we have verify, prepare, and resolve. And last one is the initialization phase. So once the initialization phase is done, then we have memory areas which require during the execution of the program. So in memory areas, we have 5 types of memory areas: method area, heap area, stack area, PC register, and native stack, method stack. So among all the 5 memory areas, the heap area is the important one. Next, we have the execution engine. We have interpreter, just JIT, intermediate code generator. Then we have garbage collector, security management, and the native method libraries information are provided to the execution with the help of JNI, which are Java native interfaces. So you can see there is a flow among the different components of the JVM. So this class loader system can communicate with the memory areas, and memory areas can communicate with the execution engine, and execution engine can also communicate with the memory areas, and memory areas can also communicate with the class loader subsystem. So there is a bi-directional flow between the different components of the JVM. So this was the fully fledged architecture of the JVM, in which I have explained each and every component of the JVM. Thank you. If you have any questions regarding this, you can comment in the comment section. In the next section, we'll be starting with the basic concepts of Java. If you have any query related to this, you can also mail at palakpuri, PALLAKPURI 40004@gmail.com. I'll thank you. I'll be available with the next video very soon. Stay happy, stay safe.